Meet me, welcome back to another Squirrely Guide video. This is going to be a fun one. So it's been no secret that this season I finally decided to do a top 100 Legend Arena push. I had not done it in the past because you guys know I don't like regular arena, and also the arena reset time was 1 a.m. for me, so I never really wanted to stay up that late. But with coronavirus going around, as tragic as it is, I've been working from home, so this season it was somewhat possible for me. So there's two main reasons why I finally decided to do this push. Number one, it's because credentials are important. I guess I'm an Epic 7 content creator now, and for me to be taken seriously, I felt like I needed to prove that I can compete at the higher levels. And there's a lot of Epic 7 content creators out there, and unfortunately, a lot of people listen to their advice, listen to their videos, and the fact of the matter is a lot of it is just bad advice, and it comes from content creators that aren't actually able to succeed at the highest levels. And I'm not going to name everyone, but I did in fact see 3 or 4 YouTubers attempting legend pushes earlier in the season, and they had terrible defenses, speed cleave defenses that made no sense. One was earning Berseria, Sid, blah blah blah, and they just got farmed out. They couldn't cut it. So I thought it was important for me to prove that I wasn't one of those guys. Reason number two, an easier reason, is that I couldn't find any videos about this topic, which was confusing to me because as you near the end game, this is probably going to be a top goal for many serious Epic 7 players. They're going to want to get one of these top 100 frames because endgame in Epic 7 is mostly about PvP. And I couldn't find anything on YouTube. I think I found one video, but it was just some guy autoing adventure and blabbing on and on. So I thought YouTube deserved at least one video about this very important topic. So with that out of the way, let's get started. As always, my videos are broken down into subjects. Number one, how top 100 works and rewards. Number two, minimum offensive and defensive requirements. Number three, what to expect if you take this challenge on. Number four, common myths, and I'll dispel them. Number five, some helpful tips for your own legend grind. And number six, just a quick discussion on how difficult is the legend push. And then we'll wrap it up. Let's get started. Alright, so topic number one is how the top 100 works and rewards. We'll start with the reward. So the obvious reward, you don't really get anything special out of doing this except one of these frames. So this is the frame I'll receive in about 2 weeks. And there are frames for the top 3, the top 30, and the top 100. And obviously the rarer the frame, the cooler it looks. And these frames, once the season is over, there is no other way to get previous frames. So it's basically just permanent proof that you were good enough to be a top 100 player in XYZ season. Basically, if you have any of these frames, people will take you seriously. And another thing is, if you don't have one of these frames, you cannot call yourself a legend player. I've seen some people refer to themselves as legend players because they've broken into legend once. No one who's actually legend will consider you a legend player if you don't have a frame, because the truth is, breaking into legend once is extremely easy. Basically, just do it on a Monday morning and it doesn't prove anything. So really, you need to have a frame to be considered a legend player. So how getting the frame works is basically every single week on Sunday night, the arena battles will close and you won't be able to do it anymore. And at that point, it locks it down. And you're going to see this thing called previous weekly ranking. At that point, whoever is in the top 100 will get a set amount of points. So if you're in last place, you get 1 point. And if you're in first place, you get 100 points. So basically, points are given out at the end of the week, and the reset time, depending on your time zone, is pretty annoying. For me, it's 1 a.m. in the morning, I guess technically Monday, but I still call it Sunday night. And at that point, you can't do arena anymore for a few hours, locks it down, and the next day, you'll get this screen pop up that'll show you your weekly ranking, and you'll get X number of points. The typical arena season, historically, except for one season, I think, has been 12 weeks. So basically you have 12 weeks to try and get this. And basically what happens is as you keep playing, the season points you get from each week adds up. So this guy has been number 1 every single week. This is week 10 of the season. So he's gotten 100 points 10 times. He has 1,000 points. So that's basically how it works. And at the end of 12 weeks, basically, it just counts up everyone's season points. And whoever has the top 100 most season points for the season will receive one of those 3 frames that I mentioned previously. And that's basically how top 100 works. So topic number 2, minimum offensive and defensive requirements. So I strongly recommend that you watch my Arena Offense Guide video. It'll cover a lot of this in a lot more detail. But basically, you need a few strong offenses. You need a viable cleave. You could probably pass on the cleave, but it'll help throughout the week. You definitely need a solid tank buster team. This is the team that carried me through most of Legend because it was reasonably fast and extremely safe. Like, this team does not really die to anything. And with F. Clury and S10A, I could pretty much destroy every team. The only thing I avoided with this was ML Roman teams. And when ML Roman was around, the Fat Boy was there to save me. Another team that I strongly recommend is an SSB auto team. This helps with a lot of teams that don't have a lot of sustain. You can, even in Legend, essentially auto certain teams with this. So yeah, I would recommend, you definitely need a tank buster team. 100% need this team. If you have good speed gear, you can probably use some cleave. And this is a nice mop-up team, although in the top 100, almost everyone is running Rowana. So not always the most reliable option. So tank buster team, 100% you need it. And all of these people better have good gear. When you're up against Legend players, you better have good gear. You don't need godly gear because remember, all defense have the retarded AI candy cap, so you can outplay them, but only to a point. If your gear is substantially worse than theirs, you're still going to lose. So make sure all of these people, especially your DPS, better be like 120, 130 CP plus. Defense requirements. For the middle of the week, it doesn't really matter what your defense is, but during blind day, you better have some kind of stall defense there, otherwise you're going to pick on. Now that the season's over, I'll tell you what my own stall was. It was this. This defense was not going to beat most people, but it's going to take a long time to kill, and let me explain to you the logic of this team. You have FCC for damage mitigation. You have Rowana to make SSB unusable against this team. You have Acid, and my Acid was 305 plus speed. So basically it stopped all Alot's cleaves, and most of my defensive wins were from beating Alot's offenses. Against tank busters, this team is never going to kill a tank buster team, but let's say they bring Dark Corvus. I actually had a weird Acid in that he had almost 14,000 life, so he's not easy to one-shot. A Dark Corvus can't one-shot him through Aureus without Soulburn, and he's so fast that he's constantly spamming S3 and stealing souls. So this team basically countered SSB teams, countered Alot's teams, killed even most Alot's teams even if they brought speed imprints, countered Dark Corvus teams to an extent because he denied them souls. And overall has 2 healers, just a general pain in the ass. So the defense rate wasn't great. In Legend, during blind day, it was probably something around 15 to 25%, but that's more than good enough. So blind day, you better have some kind of stall defense, otherwise people are going to farm you. And your defense better have really good gear as well. So those are the minimum offensive and defensive requirements. Let's move on. So topic number 3. What to expect. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what to expect if you're going to take this challenge on. Number 1, it's going to be pretty tough, pretty competitive. If you're a top player, it'll actually be pretty easy, but if you're kind of middle of the road, it's going to be pretty hard. You are going to run into defenses that are shockingly scary. Like, you can scope them out by looking at your total ranking. Keep in mind that a lot of these players will switch their defenses on blind day. They don't want to give away all their secrets too early. Anyone who says that champion is the same as legend is full of shit. Let me just say that, because a lot of champion players feel bad about being champion. They'll claim that legend and champion are the same. No, it's not, dude. No, it's not. So one thing that is true is that there are a lot of strong defenses in low champion, because a lot of former legend players who aren't pushing for frames anymore will still hang around champion because they want to get their weekly rewards for being in champ. But the average champion 5 player is nowhere close to a legend player. When I'm in champion 5, I can basically 2-man and clear everything on my arena page in less than 15 minutes. So that does not happen once you're in the top 50. Every defense is a pain in the ass. It is much, much harder than champion. I guarantee you from personal experience, having been in champion for, well, close to a year, and then making the legend push this season, it's not even close. Legend is easily 2-3 times harder than the low end of champion. The other thing to expect is that the first few weeks of the season will be very hard, and we'll cover this more in the tip section, but the season will get easier as it progresses, so if you're struggling early on, don't get discouraged. You might still be able to do it in the second half, because what happens is there's a lot more players competing in week 1, 2, 3, 4, because a lot of these kind of middle-of-the-road players have delusions of grandeur or thinking they can make legends. So there's a lot more competition in that like champion 1 cutoff. A lot of those people will end up giving up by week 4. They'll go away. So the second half of the season will be much, much easier. And the last thing to note that's going to be really important is that most arena weeks, like we said, are 12 weeks long. And I've talked to some players from the past and previous season cutoffs. And essentially, the goal you're looking for is 200 season points. If you get 200 season points, you're probably going to get a top 100 frame. And basically what that means is you need top 50 finishes 4 of the 12 weeks, or you're going to have to play more weeks and get lower finishes than that. But basically your goal is to get to 200 points. And that's pretty much what to expect, so let's move on to the next topic. All right, so topic number 4, I want to cover myths, because I had some ideas in my head before I started this that are put in me by other people, and I want to make sure that I dispel these for others. Remember, this was my first season attempting this, so I didn't know if these things were true or not, but now that I've done it and gotten first-hand experience, I want to make sure that you guys don't believe these things. So, number 1, you can't be legend if you're not in the top guild because you're going to get colluded against. That's complete BS. No one's going to collude against you in the top 100. My guild is not a top 100 guild. In fact, I think I'm the only person in my guild who's ever been in legend. Actually, no, I think one other person in my guild has been legend once, but only like not even end of the week. So I have no one to collude with. I don't have connections in any of the top guilds, so I had no one to help me, really. So you definitely don't need to collude to be a top 100 player. I got to rank 37 without talking to anybody, so that's absolutely not false. The top 100 is not some Illuminati club where if you're a newcomer, they're going to snipe you out. I have no idea who any of these people are, and I really don't care. Now, if your goal is to be top 3, then yeah, you probably do need to be in a top guild to pull that off, because I'm sure there's some level of collusion or informal agreements between these top 3 people, because it's kind of suspicious that they're always top 3. I'm sure the top 10 people are just as good as the top 3. Now, top 30, I don't think you need collusion, but you need a lot of dedication, because you probably can't skip a week ever, and you're going to need to push top 30 every single week, and that's going to be painful because you really want to skip weeks because this grind is miserable. But top 30, I don't think you need collusion either, just a lot of willpower. So that myth, you can't be legend if you're not in a top guild, complete BS. Myth number 2, you need to be able to cleave everyone to push legend. Now, people used to tout this, I think because of Rush Hour, and everyone was like, oh, you need to be able to beat everyone in 1 minute. Maybe it was more true back then. It is certainly not true now. Like, if you watched my arena offense video, I have no real faith in my cleave team against top legend players because my offensive stats are whack and they just survive my cleave every time. I could use something like Tamsaria, but I hate Tamsaria because my Asaria always goes full retard and they resist defense breaks and stuff. So basically, like, this was my core team for most defenses, and it was pretty fast. Like, basically, if you can keep your wins under 5 minutes and you can maintain win streaks, and we'll talk more about that later, you don't need to be cleaving everyone to win. I can tell you I almost never ever cleaved, and I pushed as high as top 30 on certain weeks. So definitely not true. You don't need to cleave everyone to push legend. That is certifiably false based on my own experiences. Myth number 3, rush hour is the only thing that's important. That's half true and half false. So you're going to find, especially with the new point system in Endeavor season, rush hour at a certain point doesn't matter at all. Now, rush hour matters a lot for the bottom 50. The bottom 50 rush hour matters a lot because you're going to see, like, even in the last week, the bottom 60 people, the point spread was less than like 50 points. So 2-3 wins is the difference between rank 100 and like rank 60, which is a huge difference in season points. Basically, the bottom 20 is worthless. You don't get enough points for it to be worth the effort. So rush hour is still important, but it's not important at all for the top 50 because there were some days where I pushed to like 6,000 victory points by like, Sunday night. If I didn't play rush hour at all, like typically in rush hour, I was getting hit anywhere from like 6 to 20 times. If I'm at 6,000 and I lose all 20 matches, I'm going to go down like 3 spots. Like, it didn't really matter. So rush hour is not that important if you have the dedication to grind all the way up to 6K plus by Sunday morning. It really doesn't matter all that much anymore. Now, if you want to have a relaxing top 100 push, and this is more what I recommend, then yeah, it's going to matter because you're going to have to grind rush hour and beat out all the other people grinding. But I can tell you at the top 30 level, rush hour doesn't freaking matter at all. I mean, look how far ahead these guys are. And if you're in the bottom 70, you probably won't even see these guys on your refresh list very often to hit them anyway. So that's a half myth. And I think that about covers the main myths. I think the main thing that people worry about is the collusion and having to cleave top players and they get discouraged when they can't manage to cleave them. Both of those things are absolutely not true. Has not been my experience. And again, I'm a top 50 global arena player at the moment, so I think you could take my advice with a grain of salt. So let's move on. All right, topic number 5, helpful tips. Things that I think you should know to really help you pull this off. So all of these things are important, so pay attention. Number 1, at least for me, I prioritize win streaks. And the other way to put this is don't gamble. Like, I always went with an offense that I was 100% or near 100% certain I was going to beat. I can tell you I've beaten every single person in this top 100. Some were obviously much harder than others, but I have a near 100% offense against everyone in this top 100 because if I'm scared, I'm just going to cheese them with something like Crow and Dark Corvus. But the thing about win streaks is this. Once you get past a certain point, you get 3 extra points per win. So basically, every 5 wins, you get more than a free match. So in 5 wins, you'll get what? Like 65 points instead of 50, that adds up very quickly. So I would say prioritize win streaks, and it makes climbing so much easier. And we're going to talk about another benefit to this later. But if you're worried about cleaving someone, like let's say you were going to hit a team like this and you have a A-lots with suboptimal speed and you gamble and you get speed RNG'd, you're going to lose, you're going to crack your streak. It's going to be a nightmare. So this is why I generally don't cleave, because I don't really know how tanky their defenses are, and I don't want to throw a win away. I prefer a 4 to 5 minute guaranteed win to a 1 minute coin flip. And that's just my own opinion on it. I do not believe in dodging anyone. I don't believe in refreshing. So the next tip is that the earlier weeks are much harder than the latter weeks. So in the beginning, I felt like I had to really grind like many hours on Sunday and compete very hard during rush hour to try and place in the top 50. Later on, I found that I could do it pretty much effortlessly. Like, look at this week right here. I only did 170 matches. I probably only played like 30 matches on Sunday, and I finished top 50. So basically, it's because this was like, week 7 or something. In the second half of the season, a lot of people have given up. They've tried to do Legend. They realize they can't pull it off. And a lot of people just quit. So the later weeks get really, really easy. So if you want an easy time doing Arena, basically you just need top 50 like 4 times. Just ignore the first few weeks of the season and start in the second half, and you'll probably still be fine. I mean, if you can't pull it off in the second half of the season, you're probably not good enough to be Legend anyway. The next tip is, and this is quite important, is don't piss people off. That's the other reason why I just go on win streaks and just hit everyone. Because this is what some people will do. They aren't good enough to be a quote-unquote true Legend player, so they're going to find like certain defenses that they can actually beat, and they're going to spam this refresh button and hit them over and over and over. And yeah, there's Blind Day, but after Blind Day is over, your battle log still will show you what hit you. So eventually they're going to figure out who you are, and you're going to piss people off. Also, Blind Day doesn't help that much because it still shows you like the offense in the frame. Eventually, they're going to tell their friends, hey, hit the guy with the fish frame that has these 4 units, and they're going to beat you up. Now, that assumes that you're annoying someone in a strong guild with other Legend players, but the point is, there's no reason to make enemies. Like, if you have to hit the same people over and over to climb, then you're not a true Legend player. Like, if you could pull it off, fine, but you're probably just going to get pissed, like, get someone pissed at you, and you're going to get farmed out of Legend. So, don't pick on people, just go down the page, it's the better way. Along those lines, don't revenge people. I can't even talk. Don't revenge people. That's another way to piss them off, because let's think about it logically. You cannot revenge someone unless they beat your defense. So basically you're attacking someone who's already proven that they could beat you. So if you do this, what are they probably going to do? They're just going to revenge you right back and take the points back. And so you wasted a flag, they're going to waste a flag to hit you back. So if you hit each other and revenge each other 3 times, both of you guys wasted a bunch of flags for 0 net gain, and you probably pissed each other off too. So there's no reason to hit this revenge button. You're going to get hit sometimes. Don't take it personally. Everyone's getting hit. Everyone's hitting each other in the top 100. It's not a big deal. The only time I ever revenged anyone this season was for the exact situation that I described previously. I noticed the same guy had one of these blue Legend frames, this one. Not this guy specifically, but someone with this frame, I'm not going to call him out, it wasn't this guy, hit me like 7 times during rush hour. And I was like, this guy is a real douche. And every chance I got, I revenged him just out of spite. Like, it wasn't even like a smart, just out of spite, because I was like, why does this guy keep hitting me? This is exactly what I'm talking about. Don't snipe people, don't revenge them, otherwise you're going to piss people off, because I could tell you every time I saw that guy, I hit him back, and I don't see him here, so I actually don't even think he's going to make Legend this season. So, yeah, so I'm not going to name him, but screw you, whoever you are. You know who you are. So, yeah, those are my tips, and that's pretty much it. So let's just sum it up real quick. Don't gamble. Prioritize win streaks. Do the latter half of the season for an easier time. Never revenge people, and don't snipe people. Basically, the last two, basically, the tip is don't piss people off. Let's move on. Alright, so topic number 6, and I think this is something a lot of you guys are going to be interested in, is how hard is a top 100 push? Now, you know me, I'm not about BS, so I'm just going to level with you guys. It's kind of hard, but it depends on your gear. If you have good gear, it's really not that hard at all. So let's break this down. Top 3 is virtually impossible. You need to be in a top guild, you need to be colluding, and you have to be really strong. So top 3, extremely hard. Top 30 is pretty hard, but the main thing about top 30 with the new point system is not so much about difficulty, but about willpower. You need a lot of willpower because essentially you cannot skip any weeks and you need to finish top 30 every time. And you're going to need to buy a lot of flags because if you look at where the top 30 points lie, they're all around 6k. You cannot get to 6k without buying flags and just spamming matches. So you're going to have to expect to do a ton of arena matches and be pretty damn miserable for top 30. So that's pretty hard. Top 100 is pretty freaking easy. I mean, I'm ranked 37 because since this was my first season, I went overboard. So I was worried about what the cutoff would be. So I tried to get to a point where I'd be 100% safe. But honestly, looking at week 10, the rank 100 guy is still only 120 points. That's what I had at like the end of week 2. So we figured like in 2 weeks at most this will go up to like 200. So basically I was set like 4 weeks into the season. I could have stopped 4 weeks and I would have gotten a top 100 frame. You're going to see that I finally quit, and you're going to see that my offensive output dropped significantly here. Like if you look over here, my best week I got Legend 5, 6,000 points, and I did 270 matches. And you're going to see that I stopped caring once I got a big lead, and I never broke 200 matches in a week again. Like last week I did 120. These I weren't even trying to make Legend, but I just played and got like 30 win streaks and just managed to end Legend. So honestly, if you have an offense where you can beat every single defense, it's not really very hard. Like basically I just did like 4 to 5 minute matches. I'd go on like 30 to 50 win streaks for the 3 bonus points or whatever, and it was pretty straightforward. Like getting top 100 is really not that bad. But if you don't have good gear, I don't want to say that it's super easy either, because one thing I did that was kind of fun, we're going to do a little math game here, is we're going to see how many people failed. So what I did was I added up all of these season points for all 100 players in the top 100. And to figure out how many points are given out, we won't get into the math of it, but basically every single week 5,050 points are given out. So this is a week 10, so we can figure out that at this point there were 50,500 points given out. Now if I add up all these people, it only adds up to 44,220. So the question is, where did the other 6,280 points go? And the answer is a bunch of people who finished Legend some of these weeks, but who are not going to get a top 100 frame. So there are a lot of people that are good enough to finish Legend at some point that aren't good enough to get a top 100 frame. So I think that puts into perspective, like if you're struggling to make Legend at all, there's a bunch of people who actually finished Legend and still weren't able to get the frame. So it's not the easiest thing in the world either. But if you have pretty decent gear, in general, I would say it's not that hard. And I think the important number to keep in mind here is 200. If you can get to 200 season points, you're probably going to be fine in any arena season. So essentially 4 top 50 finishes. Like this week, this season, essentially I got like 10 top 50 finishes because it's week 10 and I have 500 points. But yeah, ultimately, top 100 is relatively easy, top 30 is very hard, and top 3 is virtually impossible without collusion. So I hope that answers your questions on how difficult this is or isn't. Alright, so I think that about wraps up this video. I think I covered a lot of things about Legend. Basically, if you have the gear and the kit to make the push, Getting top 100 is not that bad. Top 30 and top 3 are a completely different animal, but if you just want that top 100 frame, it's certainly possible if you put enough effort in. If a squirrel can do it, you can do it. So anyways, if you have any questions or comments, if you're a Legend player yourself and want to put your own advice for other players, feel free to put it in the comment section below. And I hope this guide was helpful for some of you guys interested in endgame PvP and have aspirations of having one of these nice looking top 100 Legend frames. So good luck to you guys, and make sure you like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thanks for watching, and peace out.